Euphoria Season 3 has just started filming, and fans are super excited for this. We're back. We're so back. And with everything that's been happening in the last almost 6 years since its release, and with the film that we've seen so far with the paparazzi, chaos is about to ensue. It's just utter chaos. And Rue is experiencing some new things, maybe branching out, maybe. But with everything that's been going on in the last 6 years, in the last almost 3 years since season 2 even released, it produces a lot of curiosity. With the new cast and returning cast members, it produces a whole new promise of a new show, but also with some trepidations of will it even rise up to the occasion? And it produces a whole lot of questions with what we've seen so far, and with Angus Cloud's death, and with returning cast members Dominic Fike, but also cast members leaving like Stormy Reed and Barbie Friera. It still produces a lot of questions on what Season 3 will entail. So let's discuss. Hello to everyone who's new here. My name is Nick, also known as the Pisces Prince, and today we're going to be talking about Euphoria Season 3, because a lot has been happening over the last 6 years. And yes, it's been 6 years since Euphoria's premiered. Honestly, this whole episode is going to be more casual, me talking with me just simply talking about the main concerns about why everyone's kind of has mixed feelings about it, and just the season's predictions that I have personally. So this is just more of a casual episode. I guess to start off, people are just saying, what is the point? What's the point in making season 3? Because the season 2 finale, it ended on Lexi's play with a lot of drama ensuing, with Cassie and Nate breaking up, and Cassie and Maddie fighting, and with Rue and Jules' relationship ending for good, and Rue saying that she stayed sober throughout high school. Also, the fact that Nate and Ashtray, while the play was going on, their house got raided, the police came, shit was happening, shit got real quick. Ashtray was shooting up the place too, and Ashtray died, and Fez might be dead too. And ironically, in real life, in late 2023, Angus Cloud unfortunately passed away, which left fans immediately heartbroken, but they're also thinking, yeah, season 3 is not really gonna happen. And some people thought about yeah, season 3 might happen anyway, and there are already plans for season 3 before Angus Cloud's death, and there are already so many plans on what the season might entail. And basically season 2 ended on a cliffhanger, and it left fans saying what's the point, because it ended on a cliffhanger that would technically kind of would have to revolve around those two plot points in the next season, and the two actors are not going to be there. And well, obviously Ashtray's actor wasn't really going to be in the next season anyway, but Fezco, Angus Cloud, was it felt like it was guaranteed that Angus Cloud was going to be returning as Fezco. And we're also very disappointed, because it's we were building up to a very cute little romance between Fez and Lexi, and that was super cute to see. And we don't really know, we're never really gonna know what was the true plan for their relationship, because they're the most wholesome relationship in the show. They're the healthiest relationship in the show. The healthiest. You would think that Kat and Ethan might be quote-unquote healthy, until Kat kind of was turning a little bit toxic with her self-hatred. towards the end and kind of like gaslighting Ethan when breaking up with him. Um, but I was rooting for Fez and Lexi. I was rooting all the way. I was rooting back in 2022 and still in 2025. At the time of this recording, I will forever be rooting for Fezco and Lexi. In fact, I might read some fan fiction on that. I'm pretty sure people have written so much fan fiction on these two. So I'll get onto that. I'll be standing I'll be standing for this ship in my own private time. Anyway, yeah, that left a lot of fans very disappointed too. Because again, what is the point? I'm just gonna keep repeating it over and over again. What is the point of season 3 when the main cliffhanger isn't really gonna be resolved in any way? And if it's just gonna be if it's gonna be talked about briefly in the first episode, then it's why bother? Why even bother, Sam Levinson? Sam just wants to make money right now. But even though based on the paparazzi film that you saw earlier, and it does look cool to see the production process and everyone back in action, especially seeing Zendaya as Rue again, because Zendaya killed this role. I just everything Zendaya touches turns to gold. I love Zendaya's work. I'll forever be just a fan of her work. She is a good actress, and in both seasons, season 1 and 2, delivered great performances, made Rue very human. Sam Levinson is a good writer to an extent, and there has been a lot of criticism towards the types of scenes that he does. And even though people have been saying that Euphoria in general is a very controversial show, and they think it glorifies drug use, and there's too much nudity in there, especially with Sydney Sweeney, with her playing Cassie, there's just a lot of themes and elements that can still be kind of relatable to audiences, even though with most of the characters, sometimes, especially with the fashion, it feels very unrealistic to a point, and it's a very exaggerated representation of Gen Z in a sense. Euphoria is still it's still a, I can't really explain in the future if someone asks me what was Euphoria like. I can't really explain Euphoria because Euphoria was a show that can't necessarily be intellectualized, explain, because Euphoria sometimes feels like a fever dream. It's kind of all over the place, and it feels like a fever dream because of the scenes and the cinematography, obviously, and obviously Labyrinth. It makes it feel like a fever dream, especially in season 1. It feels like this big fever dream in the best way, but the story is, for the most part, enjoyable to an extent. I would wish that some characters got more screen time. I obviously wish that Lexi got more screen time in season 1 just as much as we were promising her more storylines in season 2, but all she was doing was putting on a play. But even though that's storyline to an extent, I don't know. I don't know. I just wanted to see more of her, and also Gia, Rue's sister. But nonetheless, my other critique on season 2 was Nate and Cassie, but I feel that's more I feel their relationship was branching more into Cassie's character arc, exploring more of her sense of herself and how she sees herself and values male validation. But enough of that. Another reason why people are complaining is the production process. Like I said before, Euphoria premiered on June 16th, 2019. And it's been 6 years in total. The show's been around for 6 years. I was 13 in 2019 when season 1 premiered. I was 16 when season 2 premiered in 2022, and I'm going to be 19 soon, this year. Yeah. It's been a while. Like, the production process takes a while. Obviously, there's a reason why it takes a while because of the scenes and because of the cinematography. Obviously, like, the long wait is worth it. But because of, like, COVID-19, it halted so much production time. And even though we got specials out of it, like with Part 1 Rue airing in December 2020 and Part 2 Jules airing in 2021 in January, people have now, this is going to be like a future topic in another episode, people have now been kind of like complaining about the longevity of the process of it that it takes to even like produce a show like Euphoria, and how long the release date is because it's going to come out next year and they're filming this year right now as we speak. And people are just now like kind of like over it because they're just like, they lost interest in the show because they just think it's just taking too long. It's just taking too long. So we're just not really going to be into it now that it's taking too long. I feel like, I mean, like, that complaint is valid because it's like what's been happening so far, but also we have to take into account that the actors in general have other schedules. They have other films and projects to work on, and they were working on them in like last year in the process. And also, a lot of like the heavy lifting and like that takes to create a show is mostly left to the writers, the editors, the crew, everyone else. And while the actors do put in a good amount of work, and the director also puts in a good amount of work, and even though they do work hard too, and that should be acknowledged too, and they should be paid too, a lot of the heavy lifting in general goes to the people behind the scenes. So when people complain about shows taking too long and like saying like, oh, it takes like maybe 3 years to put out like a whole season with like 8 episodes, and the episodes are not even like that fucking good, it just feels like a little bit insulting, even though like it's mostly they're trying to insult the creator of the show. They're really like, to me, it seems like they're mostly like, the complaints and the insults are directed at the director and the creator, but they're really directed at the crew in general, because they're the ones that are like making the final product of creating scenes that y'all love so much. For example, Stranger Things. That scene where that running up the hill scene with Max and Vecna, everyone loved that scene. But people are still kind of like complaining about like, oh, the episode's not even that fucking good. Like, it's not even that good because it took so long. And it just feels kind of like, oh, it's just, I don't know, just people just complain, or like, I understand the complaints because, again, I guess to me, I'm like on both like sides because I'm both a consumer of this and I'm also sort of like a creator to an extent. I know the process of like both performing and creating content to an extent. It takes a long process, like art and creativity. Sometimes it just takes time. It takes time, and I feel like we should just give the show, the people who work on Euphoria, mainly the editors, the cinematography crew, and the writers. I don't know if Sam Levinson's the only writer in that room, but like I feel like we should give mostly the rest of the crew some grace because they're burning the midnight oil. We should just give them some grace. Like, yes, it takes too long, and things weren't like that back then, but also we have to understand that with how technology is advancing nowadays and how everything is just changing all the time, especially the technology in animation and film in general, it's just very complex for the people who work behind the scenes, and they're not getting paid enough either. So just cut them some slack. Just cut them some slack. That's all I'm saying. Last but not least, I want to talk about what can we expect from season 3 of Euphoria. Personally, from what I'm expecting, I'm expecting, like, from what I'm seeing so far, people have been like saying this too. Rue is going to be Fez. Like, she's gonna step in Fez's shoes. Somehow, we've seen like a video of her outside like a little bit of a taco shop. And I feel like that's just gonna mask like a business, like her drug business. And some people are like saying she's gonna like have to like pay off that 10 grand somehow. Also, that is like another thing, because like, is Sam Levinson gonna like skip over that storyline where she literally just escaped Lori? Like, is he gonna like Sam? Are we just gonna like skip over that? Like, not like, are we really just gonna like speed past that scary scene with Rue escaping her apartment? Like, that didn't happen. Like, I was like scared. I was like legit scared when I first saw it. Like, I was like anxious that something terrible was about to happen. And I literally like watched the analysis video on it, because like all the points that video was making about Lori maybe selling Rue, because I feel like that was about to happen. And thank God that Rue got out of that apartment. Also, I'm a little bit scared that she's gonna find her anyway. I'm a little scared. Like, are we gonna like skip past that storyline? Because if we're, I don't know, I might be a little bit upset if he skips past that storyline. Anyway, she might be the new Fez, or she's trying to help other drug addicts, because I mean, that first scene that you guys saw with that whole argument scene, obviously, like, without my voiceover, if you look at like the paparazzi like the video, like the girl was saying, I don't need your help. Something about that. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe she's trying to like help other addicts. That's more of like a nice thought. But like some people are saying she's not clean. Like Rue is not going to be clean. And you know what? It is a huge possibility that Rue is not going to stay sober. Yeah. Like maybe she stayed sober after high school, maybe for a year. But the possibility of her relapsing is highly likely and a little disappointing, but it's never linear. Like, progress is never linear, and it's normal. And yeah, it's just normal. So even though we can be mad and a little bit disappointed in Rue, if that's true when we do see season 3, I may or may not be watching season 3, but I am like very interested. I'm very interested in like how it might play out. Obviously, there is a time jump. We're gonna be going into the future, so hey, they're not playing high schoolers anymore, so people can stop like talking about like older actors playing like high schoolers. Anyway, I'm very curious to where like everyone's been in that period. Very curious. I'm a little bit concerned about Cassie, to be honest. If I'm being like completely honest, I'm very concerned about Cassie's future. My guess is that she hasn't really let up on Nate, and they're still going through a toxic back and forth, and she's now the new quote-unquote Maddie. Maddie might be living her best life, probably. Understandable. And last but not least, Rue and Jules' relationship. Hunter Schafer is coming back to season 3, obviously. And there's like a huge possibility that Hunter and Zendaya probably won't have that many scenes together, because it's like, obviously, I feel like Rue and Jules, it's obvious like they're never gonna get back together, so yeah, I don't think they're going to be having many scenes together. At best, I feel like Rue's going to mention Jules in passing. Like, in past tense, like, she might bring up the relationship from time to time throughout the season, while Jules might be doing her own thing, doing something. I don't really know, but it's kind of like obvious that Rue and Jules, they're not getting back together at all. and Dominic Fikes is coming back. And I don't really know. Like, maybe Elliot and Rue might be having like a casual thing, maybe like just a simple like friendship, or he might be dating Jules. I don't know, but well, maybe not. I don't think he and Hunter is going to be having that many scenes either. Yeah, I don't really think Hunter and Dominic are going to be having scenes together. Yeah, no. Yeah, I think Elliot might be hanging out with Rue from now on because, yeah, Elliot, he just only wanted Rue. Like, Jules, whatever. Like, he was really just only interested in Rue. So, my guess is Rue is going to be, like, doing her own thing most of the season. Jules is going to be doing her own thing in the season. They're not really going to interact. They're just going to, like, mention each other in passing. And they're just going to have, like, separate storylines. That's basically what I'm saying. And even if they do get back together, I don't know. Now, I feel like it's just going to be messy if they do get back together in season 3. Because they're just obviously not that right for each other, even though they're cute together, they're just not right for each other. Anyway. But let me know what you're thinking about season 3. Like, what are your thoughts on the next season? Anyway, that's kind of all I have for today. So, anyway. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Let's discuss. You can find the podcast on Spotify, anywhere you stream podcasts, like Apple Podcasts and YouTube. You can find it on social media, on Instagram and TikTok. Just search Let's Discuss Podcast _ all lowercase. And you can follow me on Instagram at nick.marshall02, all lowercase, if you want more updates of the show too, or just simply if you want to just put a face to the voice and just see your gracious host on Instagram. Anyway, I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day, week, month, year, and it's been a nice talk. So, we'll talk later, I promise. Alright, talk to you later. Bye.